board's treasurer. We have two members in the room with us today. We have the board's chair on the video conference. And I'll remind everybody, the meeting is being recorded, and the video recording will be made available on the board's website shortly after the meeting. Today's meeting, as all our meetings, is a business meeting of the board. It's a chance for the public to hear and observe the board in action, but it's not a forum for the public to provide testimony. You'll hear a little bit about the public hearings we had over the last several weeks, but today's meeting is a business meeting of the board for members in the office was to conduct business. So, with that said, Chairman Carney, is there anything you'd like to say before I?
Thank you, Omar. Michael, Mr. Secretary, would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Chairman Carney.
Present.
Member Adam Freed.
Present.
Member G.K. Sue. Member Arlene Shaw. Member Dan Zarella.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We have 6 or 7 resolutions. More than that, it turns out. We have, it looks like it may be 11 resolutions, not including the one to adjourn.
We have 8 voting items and 12 agenda items, so it's quite a bit today.
All right. The first resolution before the board is the review and approval of the minutes from the May 5th meetings. You all had a chance to read those minutes. Are there any questions?
None.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Adam. Is there a second?
Oh, and second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Indicate with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anybody abstaining? Then the minutes are approved. The next resolution before the board is the adoption of the budget for the fiscal year coming up.
I'll put a copy of the budget on the screen.
Say again, please.
I'm going to put a copy of the budget on the screen.
Oh my gosh,
Whoever's, can we mute our line, please?
Omar, can you mute? You should be able to mute anybody who's joined. Who's accidental.
Has someone else joined the meeting?
Can I ask everyone, please put your microphones on mute if you're on the call so there's no background noise? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Member Shaw just joined as Chairman Carney.
I can't hear you.
Member Shaw just joined as Chairman Carney.
Michael, do we note that? You officially?
As I said, the annual budget for fiscal year 2026 is before the board for approval. Are there any questions?
I do have, this is maybe a tiny question, but just in going through the materials for the meeting, I just caught this sort of late. The request from OMB, from the budget director on the rental payment, is a different number that's in the budget. It's only off by $1 million, but it's a different number.
304 number.
Yeah, but in the letter, it's 303.
Let us check that. The
Does
letter,
anybody know?
The exact number will be confirmed. What happens each year is we do a year-end true-up of the O&M. So the amount we actually fund.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
What happens each year is we do the budget based on the original budget time estimates. Then the amount of cash we actually fund to OMB each year is adjusted when we have the final year-end true-up fiscal 25 O&M. So at the time we do that final true-up, we also do a true-up for the rental payment based on what actual fiscal 25 debt service is. So the amount we actually fund will be done at the after.
Meaning that the rental payment itself is an estimate?
The rental payment itself, we check the forecast again, this is based on, right now it's currently based on an estimate of fiscal year twenty-five debt service. When the year is done, we'll know the actual fiscal twenty-five year end amount. At the same time, we'll know the actual fiscal year O and M. And when we fund the cash to the city, we'll do the true up at the same time for both. So that's how the cash amount we actually fund for those, we slightly different budget time estimates based on the actual debt service and the actual year in fiscal twenty-five O and M true.
Okay.
If you remember, it's a percentage, obviously, of
Yeah.
debt service.
Yeah, that's right.
So-
I'm sorry, so which is the correct number?
They won't know until,
Yeah.
The budget,
until it's done.
So the number in the budget has the additional buffer amount, that's the number that will be in the budget. The actual cash amount funded, as with the O and M, will be adjusted based on the fiscal year twenty-five actuals, which is slightly different, which is what happens each year. And then any over or under, of course, is retained in the system, and goes into the year-end balance.
Have there been situations where it's been over what the budget?
The O and M has been, it's been in a situation where there's been underspending for many years.
Yeah.
What's actually happened each year is the amount we fund to the city for O and M and the rental has been less than what's in the budget, and that amount gets captured in the year-end balance, so it offsets debt service. So it's been for many years a situation of underspending.
So no, we have not over.
Correct, we haven't busted the budget in a number of years.
Got it. Thank you.
That's not pointed out.
But Mr. Chair,
So-
member Sue has arrived as well, so now we have all five members.
A full house today. All right, so we've got the resolution, and now we have an explanation for why the resolution may not be adequate. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, the resolution and budget are correct.
Yeah.
So the board's funding target for next year is the $4,614,519,000. That is the budget, that is the correct budget, and that is the funding target. And then what will probably happen is there will probably be some underspending, and we will be asked to fund somewhat less to the city and somewhat more to the water authority. But the total revenues for the year are the $4.6 billion.
And the answer to Adam's question was that we haven't in the past gone over that.
Correct.
Over this.
The city piece has traditionally come in below budget, and the surplus has gone into debt service offset.
So said differently, Omar is doing his job well, he's budgeting correctly,
Yeah.
which is you create a little bit of buffer so that you don't end up with your pants down.
That's the technical accounting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the key point meaning that all the money anyway goes back into the
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
it goes back into
It
what
stays
gets
trapped.
carried over, it gets back into debt service, so none of the money is underutilized and none of it leaves the system, so.
Exactly.
I'm a 5-year-old, so.
And was that university?
That was myself and Arlene both making comments, yes.
No, I know our needs was, I just wasn't sure if yours, thank you.
Yes.
All
He
right.
knows the 5-year-old's voice.
So we have the resolution for the approval of the annual budget, we have questions, comments. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Don't move. That's Arlene.
Thank you, Arlene. Second?
A second.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. What's the next, I'm sorry, oh my, I don't have the next.
The next item is the rate schedule. It's the amendments to the board's
Which
rate
is
schedule.
arguably the most important thing we do. Thank you.
The rate schedule would implement the 3.7% rate increase as proposed.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
we have the letter from the Amwalk Consulting Group indicating the 3.7% revenues would be sufficient to fund the budget and would be sufficient to fund the money owed to the city and to the water authority and would be sufficient to leave it to the situation of good credit in
Are there questions?
I don't think question, but I think it's probably worth pointing out, one, thanking the team and the department for all the public outreach on this. It was good, public hearings, the ones I can make it to, and while you can never get enough public feedback, we got good public feedback, both in person and in writing, so, I know that's a big effort to stand up all those meetings, and so thank you for doing it. I think maybe just one comment, just a commentary before we vote on the budget. The place we landed on, the 3.7, I think is a very reasonable number. I think many people are pleased that it wasn't higher. I think that came through in the feedback. Yeah, I think the other notable bit of feedback was the displeasure among many of the constituencies here around the rental payment, which I think the board shared last year, certainly in its resolution. And so, I think from my own perspective, I don't speak for the board on this, but it would be good to continue to send a message to the city that that isn't the ideal scenario for the water system, is to keep asking for the rental payment, but we don't really have a chance here to, the city has the full authority to ask for it, so it's being funded. But the increased amount in the affordability programs is a good thing, the reasonable rate is a good thing, and so I think we ultimately landed in a good place, given all the considerations that were at play. So thank you for running that full public hearing process and schedule. I'm glad we heard from New Yorkers on this. We heard from a lot of common concerns, but I think we landed in a good place for the year. So thank you.
Yeah, I would just add in that, we continue to get a lot of thoughtful people who come up, many similar voices year after year, but appreciate that. It's always interesting that the years when the rates are lower, we get fewer people, which I guess is no surprise, but those people who are still interested in some of the structural issues, and the two that stand out to me, echoing Dan's comments about the rental payment. We have a legal obligation to pay it, and the city has a legal right, according to the lease, to ask for it. But it really is, passing on the budgetary pressures of the city onto the backs of ratepayers, and I would love to think about how we could invest that $303 million into the system and into the long-term infrastructure changes that are necessary with the mounting pressures that DEP and the city has with climate change and past deferred maintenance in a growing and thriving city. I think that money could be really well spent to secure the system. That would be a sound investment for ratepayers and help secure our assets. The other piece that also came up, which I'm always thrilled when it does, is looking at a separate stormwater rate for impervious areas. I really was excited by and engaged with the sustainable rate structure analysis, and a couple people had raised having that report issued, and would love to see that within the dialogue. I think there are a lot of interesting points that can be raised around that, a lot of innovation that can be brought to our rate structure, a lot of investments that have already been made, particularly the work that Albert's been leading on the billing system that enable that opportunity, and a lot of the technologies to better understand what the system looks like, and LiDAR and impervious areas within the city that I think enable innovation. So we continue to encourage us to find the ways within the legal structures we have, or advocating to change those where we might need to enable us to bring that innovation to the system, and particularly from a separate stormwater charge. So would echo that. I've been echoing that for 12 years. Hopefully not having to do it for another 12 years, but really just appreciate the work that DEP did to get us here, and for the people who came out.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments?
Sounds like there's none. Nobody wants to follow up those dates. I was just making
And they both. Hearing no further comment, may I have a motion, please, to approve the resolution?
So moved, Arlene.
Second.
Thank you, Arlene. Is there a second?
Second by Dan.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. I want to thank the members for taking the time just before the I think the board's done a good job of making it clear that we recognize the burden on ratepayers of the uncertainty of whether the city's gonna ask for it or not. I think the record reflects now very well that this board takes that view. The next resolution is the adoption of a wholesale water rate effective July 1st. Is there any discussion?
No, the resolution describes, the 1.6% rate reduction for the allowance quantity rate and the 3.7% increase to the excess rate for the water above the allowance quantity rate. I will say the wholesale hearing, we received one piece of written testimony, and there was no attendance at the public hearing apart from our rate consultant. And so it was a more muted year in terms of the public testimony on the wholesale side than has been in some years. We took that as a sign that the rate change was within within normal bounds.
Thank you very much, Omar. There being no further comment, may I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Arlene, second.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution is approved. The adoption, the next matter before the board is the adoption of an amendment to board resolution number 1. Is there any discussion?
Just to remind, this is the
Hearing-
reimbursable.
I'm sorry, please speak up.
Sorry, it's Narissa. I was just reminding, this is the reimbursable metering program. So this is where we haven't sort of updated the amount of money we repay folks who do replace their own meters since 2010. So it's an increase of, as you can imagine, inflationary increase, so that we're actually paying people much closer to what it costs for them to actually replace their meters. So
Has the intent always been to cover the full cost, or just a portion of the cost, or?
Albertino, I mean, obviously everybody has slightly different costs because it's not like a standard practice. They're hiring their own folks to replace it, so different
Right.
different contractors will cost not. But the point is to bring it up much closer to what we're seeing in the market.
Yeah,
Albert,
I think that's accurate. It's impossible to sort of fully
No,
capture.
not to the
cost
penny, no, I get that,
profile,
right.
But it's to make it essentially cost competitive for the customer to do it.
Yes.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Is there further discussion?
All of these seem to fit into a modernization of the regulations, but yeah.
Exactly. All four of these are exactly a modernization based on the work from the last 10 years, whether it's making rules more flexible so that we can bring more people into programs, give people more flexibility to respond to either access requests, if it's termination of their service, giving them more flexibility around their medical exemptions, all those pieces that we sort of talked about at the last meeting. So it's based on all this feedback from customers in the field.
Point of order, Michael, can we vote on all 4 of these at once?
And I mean,
Good, great
I don't know
question.
if you want to, you want to do that?
I like how.
Members, if you're okay with everything.
First, we'll cast the one vote will approve all 4 resolutions.
One vote to pass them all.
And before
But this is how you can tell the nerds in the group goes to last. Thank you for calling yourselves out.
the whole room laughs.
Yeah. I know my audience.
I mean, we've been here for a decade
Yeah.
talking about water. If there's anything that one can confirm about him and I Adam.
Yes, we have some told
Yeah,
man.
none of the cool kids are here?
Yeah.
Listen, I think all the cool kids are here, quite frankly. I walked in with the coolest kid of all. I walked in with Mr. Womack. But what I want to say, what I wanna say is, I applaud the water board for always like being forward thinking, trying to incentivize the customers to be good stewards of the system and to be active participants in the system. So what I do find with these four amendments was really just more of that, intentionality around trying to make sure that we're all good stewards of the system. So I applaud you guys for always being forward thinking in that way and not being reactionary, but actually being proactive to always make sure that you incentivize the ratepayers to do the right thing, and oftentimes that's with the wallet. So I just want to say that that's a great job on your part.
Thank you, Arlene. I'd like to jump in on that score and point out that I think this has the potential to be just the beginning. My observation is that for many years we've actually not appreciated the power of the regulations that we establish here, insofar as how it can shape behavior, how it can achieve policy goals, and how it can improve customer service. And I think that both Narissa as CFO and Albert at Bureau of Customer Service have done a lot of thinking on this. And I think, and so this is the first bit. I think there is an opportunity to do a lot more, and I think we should be not only open to it, but seeking it. Because rather than having a sense of, oh, let's let sleeping dogs lie and deal with an antiquated set of rules, some of which don't make any sense. And I think one of these four, which is simply kind of rebranding, and Albert has pointed this out, like how angry people get when we tell them, when we accuse them of theft of service, as opposed to something far more benign like billing interference, makes a massive difference in the way that customers interact with us. And so I think we need to be far more aggressive going forward about finding opportunities like these and making changes. So thank you for appreciating that, Arlene, and I really want to recognize Larissa and Albert's work on this.
I think that we all as New Yorkers have a vested interest in the system working well, right? We see other municipalities, and like I'm always super thankful that we don't end up on the board where everybody is, and I think it's something that is important. But you know what I mean? Like it's important, and the more we bring your average person under the hood, I think the better we all end up with a better outcome. So I'm excited to
Yeah.
all of these work.
And in a world where there are systems of major capital, world-class cities in other countries that are going bankrupt or facing bankruptcy, we have a strong, healthy fiscal system. I have long been advocating to modernize our rate structure, and for stormwater management, I think expanding that to our regulatory issues as well is really important. So being proactive on that and not waiting is really important. Any way we can partner with you in that, please let us know.
Well, as Rit said, we actually have like a number of other analyses underway, so we will actually be bringing things back over the next 12 to 24 months across a whole variety of districts.
Yeah, or the next 6 months.
Might
Yeah,
require
no,
additional hearings.
Yes.
Could be
But we
faster
should
as
be able
well.
to do that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We're ready to vote, Al.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you can just recite the four resolutions that you're going to make a motion manually.
Well, I don't have to do it now, I just did, thank you.
So it's the amendments to boards resolutions, number
But-
one, the reimbursable metering, and then.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
1, 2, 3, and 4, yes.
And I think the members understand. So may I have a motion, please, to approve the omnibus?
So
Inclusive of amendments to numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
so moved, Arlene.
Seconded, yeah.
Thank you, Arlene. Second, Dan, thank you very much. All in favor, please
Aye.
indicate with aye.
Uh,
Are there any opposed? And given the quality of comments that you all made, it seems to me that it isn't necessary to say any more. Thank you all very much. That's a very interesting discussion.
Al, you're not in the room, so I'll share the joke. Someone at the table said it was one big beautiful resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, and I think we
Yeah, yeah.
Now Dan wants to change his vote.
all right.
We'll know that was a joke.
Yeah,
They're all jokes, they were just jokes.
Some were fried, sorry.
Thank you for
Everybody's
that.
kidding, I know. Before I
lawyer.
the record reflect this, if the joke got into the record, the record reflect
Checking the minutes.
that everything
Yeah.
else is there. I'm sorry, I don't know what the next matter is. The mayor pack?
The presentation of the real estate action in the town of Carmel. We see the wonderful people.
We have Dave Warren, our Assistant Commissioner from the Bureau of Water Supply, and then P.J. Sager, Agency Counsel from DEP's Bureau of Legal Affairs here to present what they're looking at in the MAP plan.
Where would you like us to?
Probably
Yeah,
yes.
probably about the microphone.
Okay, I thought you were gonna maybe put us in the middle there. Well, yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm David Warren, I'm Assistant Commissioner with DEP's Bureau of Water Supply. It's nice to be in front of the board again. And a short presentation on a proposed real estate transaction that will result in significant cost savings to the system. So unless there are any questions, I'll just step through the presentation. So the purpose today is to provide you background on a proposed real estate transaction and asset transfer of a city-owned wastewater treatment plant in the town of Carmel in Putnam County. And the proposal is to turn the plant over to the town to own and operate the facility. It's currently owned and operated by DEP. I'll give you a quick overview of the plant itself, talk a little bit about the background on the transfer, how we got to this point, go through a summary of the present board cost analysis that led us to understand that this is a savings to the system, explain the financial terms that are part of the transaction, and then tell you what our recommendation and the request to the board is. Next slide. So I've done a lot of presentations over many years. I always try and include pictures. I think it makes it more interesting. I will say that aging wastewater infrastructure is not particularly visually compelling, so please bear with me as I go through this. But this plant has been built in the 1940s. It has been owned and operated by DEP since that time. It is one of 7 small wastewater treatment plants that we own and operate within the watershed or the watershed region. And it was fully rebuilt in 1997. It has a speedies capacity or a permit capacity of 300,000 gallons per day, but the average treated at the plant is about half of that, 152,000 gallons per day. The plant is due for rehabilitation. As I said, it was upgraded in 1997. Many of the components are aging and need to be replaced, and it is essentially a full plant rehabilitation right from the headworks to the final effluent and outfall, and addressing all components of the treatment system. Next slide. So the images here, just to give you a sense of where we are, the map on the left shows the outline of the east of Hudson watershed, or the drainage area that serves our reservoirs, about 400 square miles in northern Westchester, parts of Putnam County, and parts of Dutchess County. And the red dot is the location of the wastewater treatment plant in the town of Carmel in Putnam County. The image on the right is the aerial view of the plant itself. The outline in red is the property that would be transferred to the town. You can see the plant facilities on the right side. The area to the left that is vacant is not really usable property. The area immediately adjacent to the road is fairly steep, and then there's a state mapped wetland that runs down between the road and the plant itself, so it's not particularly usable So, how did we get to this point? The town approached DEP, has approached DEP actually several times, bless you, over a period of years, seeking to have us transfer the facility to the town. For a number of years, we didn't really consider it seriously, but going back about to just around 2019, we really began engaging with the town to think about what this transaction would look like. Why does the town want it? The town wants to control the wastewater plant because they believe that would give them the opportunity to expand the collection system to serve new areas in the town and for economic development, essentially commercial development within the town would be connected to the plant. They think they'll have better control over that if the town is the owner and the operator of the facility. Our ownership of the plant involves ongoing investment, both staff and costs, which I'll run through in a minute here. And as part of this transaction, we're also looking to be relieved of some financial obligations to two smaller non-city-owned wastewater treatment plants that are in the same area. We pay a portion of the O&M costs for those smaller plants, and we have responsibility for some of the capital costs for those smaller plants. As part of this deal, the town has agreed that they would decommission those two plants, connect them into the expanded service area for the Mayapack facility, and therefore relieve us of some of that financial cost. And as part of your packet, I think you were provided the letter from the engineering consultant to the finance authority saying that the conveyance would have no adverse financial impact on the operation of the system or the finances. Next slide.
A question on, maybe just discovered that I guess part of the rationale, it sounds like, is the town wants to expand, there's economic development opportunities and commercial and housing, and that's going to connect into the system. Those are economic rationale. And we're convinced that all of that additional development doesn't have adverse watershed impacts. Is that correct?
We are, yes. So we are not opposed to development in the watershed. What we like to see is that when it happens in areas where there's centralized wastewater treatment. So rather than having it sort of sprawl out across the countryside on septic systems, if it's in a concentrated area where there's wastewater or stormwater infrastructure, and any development, of course, has to comply with the watershed regulations that DEP administers, we think there'd be no adverse impact on water quality.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next slide. So we did run a present worth cost estimate of what it would cost the city to continue to own and operate this facility. This cost estimate was reviewed with DEP's financial staff as well as presented to OMB staff. And we've included two rehabilitations of the plant, one now and one in 25 years. I've included our staffing costs, included utility, chemical, sludge disposal, O&M. We pay taxes on the property to the local town. And our analysis came out with a $147 million present worth value for the 30-year cost if the city retains the facility. I mentioned the two smaller plants that would be incorporated into the service area for this facility. That adds another $15 million 30-year cost to DEP. So the total cost for the city, if we continue to operate as we are now over the 30 years, would be $162 million. As part of their effort to convince us that this was a transaction that was in our interest, the town did a separate present worth analysis, and they came up with, sorry, I thought I had it on the slide, but their value, I think, was $136 million. And so a little lower than our estimate, but it's certainly in the same ballpark, which gives us some comfort that our value is accurate. Next slide. Yeah. So the funding status, what we're proposing here, is that we would provide, to the town, $66 million, for rehabilitation of the facility and, other expenses. We would also provide $10 million for the addition of the 2 small wastewater treatment plants into the service area for a total of $76 million. It's actually $76.3 million. That compares to the $147 million cost of us retaining, or $162 million, I should say, the cost of us retaining the facilities. We'd be using PAYGO capital funding, and another important piece is DEP has a contract in place with New York State Department of Environmental Conservation to provide $200 million to DEP for a variety of watershed projects. $29 million of that state money would be allocated to this deal. So the $76 million total funding, $29 million of it would come from the state.
Do you happen to know which source from the state that's coming from? Is it EFC, is it Bond Act, is it
It's,
Previous bond act.
prior month?
yeah.
Okay. What year was that from? Yeah.
It's not 99, it may be 07, but it's yeah.
Well, glad you're spending it.
The state had a lot of opinions on how we spent it, I'm sure.
So, next slide.
And maybe one other question, can you get to this? We must be convinced that they have the capacity to run this plant. Is that correct?
Not only run, but also the financial wherewithal.
Yes.
Right, because we're giving 70 million today, but there'll be more upgrades, there'll be more things that happen. So just to expand your question,
So-
we're convinced that they can not only run it, but financially continue to support it.
Yeah, great questions. We do believe that the town has the capacity. They actually own and operate 2 other wastewater treatment plants, and they operate the way many municipalities do. They contract out the operation of the facility to a company that runs the plant, and so we do believe that they have the ability to do that. And within their service area, they'll they have the ability to bond and charge water and sewer rates, I should say, for future capital and O&M needs for the facility. So yes, we think they have they're well positioned to take this over and run it effectively.
And in a scenario where they potentially don't, or something goes wrong, do we have long-term liability here in any way, shape, or form?
We would not have long-term liability. And when wastewater treatment plants fail in the watershed, typically it's a matter of enforcement action by the State Department of Environmental Conservation. But just the fact that we were a previous owner doesn't provide us with any long-term liability.
No backstopping of
No,
any sort?
no.
Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. Just a couple of points about statutory authority and a couple of points about the deed. Some of this may be familiar to you from some earlier conveyances that we've done. Administrative Code, New York City Administrative Code 4-1069 provides DEP with the authority to transfer properties previously purchased for watershed protection purposes, which is why this property, as all property that we purchase upstate, is for, or water supply purposes, to convey property without public letting for, among other reasons, for a sewer project. This is a wastewater treatment plant and accompanying sewer lines, so it fits perfectly within that prong of the statute. And also for any other public purpose, also hits that element. Not only are we fostering water quality by removing potentially failing septic systems, but as Dave discussed earlier, this transaction will result in long-term savings, cost savings for the city. 2 additional requirements for 4-1069. 1, DEP certifies, and we did this in our memo to the board, we certified that the conveyance will not endanger or injure the water supply structures, and that was for the reasons that Dave so eloquently went into earlier. 2, in the deed, there will be a restrictive covenant which expressly provides that the property shall not be used in a way that injures the water supply. One other point about the deed is that we will maintain an access easement to run a boat permitting office, which is part of our recreation program. Next slide.
Thanks, PJ. So this, our recommendation, the recommendation to the board, is that given the cost savings and the financial benefits of turning over this asset to the town, that we proceed with that proposed transaction. The next steps would be to execute and register an intergovernmental agreement with the town. That agreement is has been drafted and is under review. And then the request of the board is that you authorize the transfer of this asset. So that concludes the presentation. Happy to answer more questions if there are anything we can cover.
Previous slide.
Yeah. That's to counteract the previous photos of the.
No, thank you once again for the thoughtful explanation, the legal background, and I think it's straightforward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your attention.
Are there other comments or questions? There is a resolution which I have not seen on this, for the approval of the recommendation. May I have a motion, please?
So moved, Arlene.
And seconded by Adam.
Thank you. All in favor, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the resolution is approved.
Such a happy board. We always approve everything unanimously.
We do the hard work before.
I know, we fight in private.
So you're gonna explain this nice glossy, pretty document that you,
Well,
left for all of us?
I just wanted to give you all an advance copy because, going on 2 years ago now, you all, funded a consultant to come and kick off, strategic plan. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Chairman, we will mail it to you, but we actually have advanced hard copies of DEP's long-range vision, which we will be, publishing next week. And I thought it was appropriate to give you all
I
a
look
copy,
forward to seeing it.
since you all helped fund the work that got it underway. I'm quite pleased with it. I think it's a really good document. It has taken us longer than it should to get to the finish line of actual publication, but as you will go through this, you will see any number of things we have already been implementing and working on, ranging from things like being an esteemed presence in the watershed, to improving customer service, which is in part reflected in the big resolution you all just adopted, to update some of our regulations. A focus on efficiency, the focus on business processes that is in here. So there is a lot. And in fact, one of the key things, as you all know, we've discussed in the past, is work that Dave and his colleagues are already underway, which is the FAD has to be renewed in 2027. And a significant item in here is the recognition of how different the next FAD is going to have to be if it is going to be successful. Those changing situations require changing actions. And if we continue to do the same things we've done for 3 years, I would fully expect we will lose the FAD. So we'll have to change to keep up with new realities. So anyway, that's, just thought, we will be doing a lot of internal work, we'll be recording a video, we'll be doing a town hall, things like that. But this document, we have only limited hard copies in 2025 to distribute, but this is for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I
Look forward to
appreciate
reading.
the comparison of the timelessness and impact of the New York Water System to the Trevi Fountain in Rome. That's a nice touch to place us in the, a mortal context of great infrastructure.
You
All
alluded
roads.
earlier to the challenges our colleagues in Britain are having.
Yes,
The good news is a little further south.
exactly.
Are there any other comments? Is there any other business to come before this board? This has been a terrific meeting. I want to thank all of you who participated to make it so. Thank you very much. And may I have a motion, please, to adjourn this meeting?
So moved. Second.
Thank you both. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm sure there are none of those. Nobody is. You all have a good day. Thank you for listening to me.
All right, Mr. Chair, we hope to see you in person next time.